Okay, well, I'm here today. I'm one of the founders of the Grokking Wholeness website, and I have with me a guest today who just happens to be my daughter, Yvette, and I'm going to let her introduce herself rather than myself going on about it. So go ahead.
Well, hi, Mom, and thank you for, I guess, the opportunity for introducing myself. Yes, I am your daughter. That is a facet of who I am, but my name is Yvette Seachrist-McGlasson, and I have been your daughter for a long time. And besides that, I have a wide variety of certifications in things that I have become interested over the years. I am a yoga teacher. I am also a Yoga Nidra facilitator, which is why we're here today. I've also trained in advanced Yoga Nidra and also yoga therapy, as well as breath work. Also a life coach. I have two different levels of certification with life coach as well as a functional medicine certified health coach. And outside of that, all of these were a result of being involved in corporate America, and especially a woman in corporate America, a very linear lifestyle that I was leading. And I found on a personal level that it wasn't as fulfilling as I wanted it to be. And I felt like I lived with one foot in corporate America and one foot in a spiritual consciousness raising environment. And I needed a path of integration. And that path of integration was introduced to me in 2012 as when I was introduced the second time to Yogi Amrit Desai. And at the time when I said I was looking for integration, I did not realize that he was the founding father of the integrated Amrit method of yoga, yoga nidra, and yoga therapy. So that's how I got to where I am today. And I think also it's the reason why we're going to have this conversation.
Yes, and since you've mentioned him, I'd like for you to talk about what is different about his method of certifying people. What's different about his Yoga Nidra versus many others that are now offered on the internet?
Well, I mean, there's a multitude of things of the foundation of his teachings as they stand with the integrative Amit method of anything. And everything that he teaches is immersed in a culture and a lineage of Patanjali's eight limbs of yoga. And there are so many types of certification process of classes out there that you can become a certified teacher of. But if you get into yoga, yoga nidra, yoga therapy, you can learn the physical posture, but everything has the second half, which is the appreciation of the energy moving through the body. And his style of teaching, his style of certification, which is an extension of what his daughter Kamini Desai has developed over the years in formulating almost like a polishing of his yoga and yoga nidra and yoga therapy, is just taking those eight limbs and understanding how those eight limbs can apply to the life that we spend when we're not on the mat, because everything is fine when you're on the mat. But at the same time, if you're on the mat and you're thinking about, okay, I'm checking out the woman who's next to me and I really like where she got her yoga pants. I'm going to ask her afterwards where she got those yoga pants. Or, oh, wow, I'm not doing as good as that person over there. And maybe I should go deeper. And this really hurts a lot. But I got to go to the grocery store on my way home from work tonight. And if I don't do that, then I don't pick up the kids. And oh my gosh, and the price of eggs. I mean, it just, the mind spirals out of control. And it happens when you're in a yoga practice. So the way that Amrita Sai has cultivated something that is so sweetly spiritual is that you begin to tame the mind, which has typically been in the driver's seat of the life, goes into the passenger seat of your life. And then eventually, with practice, it goes into the back seat of your life. And then eventually, you're so immersed in it that that mind that just dragged you all over God's creation is 20 miles down in your rearview mirror. So this is something that's very unique to their teachings, and it comes from a spiritual lineage of masters that have come from India. So you're getting the true essence of yoga from the inside out, not yoga from the outside in.
So kind of talk about what does Yoga Nidra look like? What positions are you in? How long of a session would you expect to have?
Well, Yoga Nidra as a practice, you do lie down in Shavasana. So you are in a surrender posture. So there is yoga involved. And if your teacher is a yoga teacher who is certified yoga teacher, you can also do some form of yoga postures leading the body into stillness. But if you're not certified yoga teacher, you really shouldn't be teaching yoga postures. But the main posture in it is Shavasana, lying down in corpse pose. So from there, there's no other form of physical response. There's an energetic response because you're guided through this form of meditation, because yoga nidra means yogic sleep, and you're guided through this, and you find your way to a place beyond the mind by entering the body through breath, through body awareness, and you become more aware of your body. And then when you come back out of your yoga nidra, you're typically way more relaxed than you went in. And I would like to say that for anybody who has said, "Oh, I cannot meditate. My mind won't let me." Well, there are hacks that come, with the continued practice of yoga nidra, and the breath and the body scanning are two hacks that you can get past the mind and get your body to relax. Because when you can relax your body and do so while ironically remaining alert and aware, you can get beyond the thinking mind to a feeling space. And then when it comes time for all of life's frustrations, the more time you spend beyond that in, maybe let's say alpha or theta brainwave state, maybe even going into delta, the body can restore itself, the mind calms itself, and that constant chatter, you begin to find pauses in between the thoughts that you can begin to expand those pauses. And it's in those pauses that you find peace, you find serenity, you find happiness, you find contentment. All the things that we go chasing after are in those pauses. And that's what Yoga Nidra helps to develop over continued practice. Just like when you go to the gym and lift weights,
Yeah.
you get with your muscles, you get stronger. And the same thing happens with continued practice with Yoga Nidra.
Well, how important is intention, setting an intention for your practice? And do you have to have the same intention all the time for a certain amount of time? So talk about that.
That's a really good, those are actually really good questions, because I would say if you don't use an intention, and it's not a bad thing, however, the Yoga Nidra will relax you. It's like taking a nap. That when you use an intention, which is not one that I will be this or I will be that, that's all future based. It's about being in the present moment, staying in the present moment. So if you set a short, quick intention, let's say I'm letting go of that which is going, I'm letting come that which is coming. So if you have that intention when you go in, there's two things that can happen. Number one, when the mind gets distracted and goes off into the grocery list or the doctor's appointment or, picking up the kids after school, you can replace that mental activity with the intention. I'm letting go of that which is going. I'm letting come that which is coming. So there's one way of using the intention. The second way is that when we know from the science behind Yoga Nidra, that's because they've used the EEG tracking systems on the brain activity, that just by closing your eyes and focusing on your breath, you can shift from a beta brainwave state, and you slow your brain waves down to an alpha, which is a meditative state. The longer you spend focusing on your breath, your body scanning, your intention, you can actually shift into a theta. Now, theta obviously is dream state, but when you go into a deeper level of theta towards delta, you almost get into a state of lucid dreaming, which is great for creativity. And then if you are fully in that relaxed state, and you can go into delta, and typically, you might dip in and out of delta while you're in your yoga nidra, like the middle to late part of it. When you seed plant your intention in that level, when you're in your yoga nidra, what happens is, as you are guided back out of it, and this is a reverse bell curve, when you're guided back out of it, that seed planting of that intention of I'm letting go of that which is going, I'm letting come that which is coming. This is just my example. When you come back out, the mind begins to see your world through the lens of that intention that you seed planted deep into the subconscious mind. And that's so as you continue to strengthen the muscle with that intention, your view on life is less of life coming at you, whereas you are now going into life. So you're looking at life from a different lens. It's like putting on a different pair of glasses and seeing the world, through a new set of glasses. So that's why an intention is so important. And there are different schools of thought with a combination of intention and affirmation. So the intention is to let go of that which holds you back. The affirmation is, I'm letting come that which is coming, or, you are affirming, I am accepting the world as it is, I'm accepting myself as it is. And the language of the intention is extremely important because it has to be something that your mind is not going to be snapping at you constantly going, no, it's not. No, you're not. You're not. You can't accept yourself as you are, because when you were 5 years old, that boy told you that you were too tall, too skinny, you had buck teeth, you have, oh my God, your freckles. So the ego mind will resist against it. So and I'll give you a quick example, because I've been teaching Yoga Nidra since 2012. That's when I got my certification. And I still teach today at an NCH Wellness Center here in Naples, Florida. So I started teaching, and I used my intention I gave my students was, I accept myself as I am and the world as it is. So that was the intention I gave them. After class, one very, very sweet student came up and said, Yvette, will you please change the intention, because I can't accept myself as I am, because my husband tells me that I'm not this and I'm not that. So irrespective of the relationship of her husband haranguing her, telling her what she wasn't, her mind, she goes, I can't accept myself as I am, and that's how it made her mind even more active. So I said, well, what if we just say, I am accepting myself as I am and the world as it is? Because accepting is more of an action, you're more involved in it. And I'm getting to that point where I can accept myself. And maybe the next step will be, I can love myself as I am and the world as it is. So the wording, it needs to be extremely important, and how you word it. And sometimes it takes time to work through finding an intention or an affirmation that really does fit what's important. I tell my students to feel their way through it. If it doesn't feel, if it feels sticky or just ick, that's the one you want.
Oh, that's
Because
the one you want. Resistance is a good thing in this.
yes, that's the one you want, because if it's easy, then you wouldn't need to see planted in the subconscious mind to change how you are seeing yourself or the world that you live in. And so that's the intention. And you asked me about how important, or well, can your intentions change?
Yeah.
And yes, as we evolve in our practice, and as we evolve as human beings, and we become more comfortable in our own skin. Our intentions evolve with us. So if I have my overachiever students who think I gotta, let's do it, we're, this is the NBA playoffs of intention setting. They end up so frustrated, so disappointed. Um, so I just say, find your edge, come back off of the edge, find something that's comfortable, work with that for a week. Maybe it can even be something like you can be in the middle of a practice and you've chosen your own intention, because I give them, give yourself permission to choose your own intention. What do you want to work on today? So when you're in it, you might go in with one intention, but find that as you begin to relax, something else comes up for you and you shift even within the scope of a practice. But your intentions will change as you evolve as a person.
If you're doing using Yoga Nidra every day as a practice, how long would you keep one intention before you maybe switch to something else?
That's a good question too. I think it just depends upon seeing if you have this intention. And I will also encourage people to, yes, use your intention when you're in your practice. But because this is Patanjali's Yoga Nidra, as I'm going to use the 8 limbs, how it applies is you spend more time off of your mat than you do on it. So put your intention on a Post-it note and put it on your mirror. So in the 2 minutes when you've got your toothbrush, you are reading that intention, even when you are awake and aware and you're on your 2 feet, because you can use it when the person who's driving in front of you slams on their brakes or doesn't use their turn signal or runs a red light. I mean, there are so many opportunities when we can dismantle our reactive patterns. And by using your intention, you can grab your reaction before it becomes externalized, and you can downshift with that intention and put yourself into response.
I have a question. I mean, I'm just curious. Could you possibly, since you're really dealing with the subconscious and perhaps burning karma, could you possibly ask yourself a very deep question that you've been trying to get to the root of something? Could you integrate that into your Yoga Nidra practice instead of using an intention?
Oh, yes. I have a beautiful example. I had a wife who brought her husband in to come for a practice one time. And he was, I'm not a yogi. I don't practice yoga. I'm just humoring my wife. But he was an architect. And he had a client who had challenged him with a piece of granite. The person wanted to be made into a bathtub.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, a very complex thing that this person wanted as part of, it was a bathroom flip as part of what project he was working on. And for the life of him, he could not hit the intellect, and the way he was looking at it was not working. And he was so frustrated with it. So he came to class and he said that this is what I'm going to work on, because I want a solution to this creative problem, and I've got this creative block. So he came to class for a week with her, and by Job, I think he's got it. Literally the second practice, if he could have leapt to his feet and go running out of the room, Yvette, I can't believe it. I didn't believe in this stuff, but oh my God, the solution came to me when I was in this practice. I can't get over it. He was blown away. So if you have a question that you want an answer to, or you want a solution to, you may get a word, a phrase, an image, an idea, a memory might spring up. And so you mentioned karma. It's a great place to burn karma as well. But yes, absolutely. Yoga Nidra is a creative space to put yourself in that can burn through those creative blocks that we bump into.
Okay. Um, so how long, Yoga Nidra practice, I think what I've done, and I have to say I've been trained like you, but I only use it for personal reasons for myself. So how long I see on YouTube, there are people who are doing like 2 hour yoga nidras, and I don't know why, because what we were taught was sort of what, a half an hour, 45 minutes, and we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who was telling me that they had a 3 hour yoga nidra practice, and I said, why? I why do you need a 3 hour? Are you not sleeping at night? Because a 45-minute practice of yoga nidra is the equivalent of 3 to 4 hours of restorative sleep, which is why it's a great thing to do in the morning because, sleep is so important and sleep is not underrated. Um, but yoga nidra can actually compensate for the bad sleep that we get. So I'm a big proponent of practicing in the morning before you have to actually get up and navigate your day. But yes, when it comes time for the IM method of yoga nidra, 45 minutes is sweet spot. You can 45 to 60. If you're going into 60 minutes or you're getting into really deep work, into the subconscious mind, you're letting people spend more time in that juiciness. But, I think about the history of yoga nidra and how it's been around for, I mean, it's been written about for probably about 4,000 years now, as I'm thinking my dates are correct. And it's not something that is well known in the United States. And when the yogis first came here in the 1800s, and they came and they saw the Western mind and the industrialized nation and developing, and how the mind was all over the place, they just put this tool back in their toolbox and just said, they're not ready for it. So when you have such an active ADHD, and these days with cell phones and things got to move quickly and flicking through this and scrolling through that, the attention span has gotten shorter on the average human being, sadly enough. But as a result, holding somebody in a yoga nidra for more than an hour is not good. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's helping you get to where you want to be any faster.
Okay. And I was wondering, there's two more questions that I have. Would you like to talk a little bit about the new, I think it was one of Kamini's newer things about the epigenetics of Yoga Nidra. I know
Mhm.
that I used it before going into surgery last week. So I gotta say, it worked beautifully for me. And I would even say that I'm healing much faster than I would have without it. So you
Good.
want to talk about
Good. Yes, epigenetics has become quite the conversation piece these days. A lot of people who are into, the body keeps score, the fact that, everything that we've ever said about ourselves, the mind has said to us, all of our conditioning, all of the things that have been said to us about us, whether it's your teachers, your siblings, your family, it doesn't really matter. That's stored in the cells. All those memories are stored in the cells. You may not consciously remember it, but the body does. So with epigenetics, that study has shown that those genes, our genes, hold the memory pain and joy of our predecessors. So you can inherit in your gene pool from your mother, your father, your grandmother, your aunt. That can all come through with you in this birth. And it's something that I do believe in very strongly, especially after working with clients one-on-one and seeing them um, work through anxiety, work through um, uh, addictions. I mean, and seeing them heal from a root cause place. And the relief that comes as a result to say, you know what, this isn't mine, but yet I've been living this as if it's mine. It doesn't belong to me. It belonged to someone before me. So Kamini Desai is my teacher. She's PhD and brilliant mind when it comes time for yoga nidra, yoga therapy. And she's very, very passionate about them. So she recently did a deeper dive into epigenetics and how we have the power to change our vibration. And I mean, there's so much science that proves that we are energy beings. I mean, we are just having a physical experience, but we are energy beings, which is why the Amrit method with anything is the second half of the posture is to feel the sensations in the body. Now, with epigenetics and using Yoga Nidra, if you know that you have something, a conditioning that is a habit you just cannot get rid of. It may be yours, or it may be something that you picked up from your parents. You can use Yoga Nidra to change the vibration in the whole body. So you're flooding the body with joy, even just safety, just especially for people who have experienced a lot of trauma. Feeling safe is an alien thing for someone who's experienced trauma. And I'm talking extreme trauma. I mean, trauma is subjective to the individual, there's no one standard answer for trauma. We all have trauma some way, shape, or form. But where that trauma lies in the body, we can discover with sensation when we do the body scanning. And that's where the memory pain is held. So when you take that belief system of going to the body through the energy body so that you are flooding the body with safety, and that could be something that, let's say, where's your happy place? What makes you happy? Remember something that, whether you were on the beach or you're walking in the forest or, whatever that was, there was an essence of joy, love, completion, peace. And when you flood the entire body with it, you undo the epigenetic impact of inherited memory pain. So, and you begin to realize that you are not your pain. You are separate from that. And how freeing can that be? I mean, it's just profound. So going beyond the mental body, and going towards you're working your energy body, obviously, you're changing your energy field. And I mean, look at heart math, for example. The signals that the body sends to the brain, for every, I think, 9 signals that go from the heart to the brain only sends one back. So if you're going to change this, flood it with something that is a higher vibration, not positive, not negative, just a higher vibration. So it gives you an essence of that.
Now, I understand that sometime, I think in August, you're going to work with Dr. Carol Roberts, who's one of our co-founders for Grokking Wholeness. You're going to do a psychedelic weekend with her. So
Mm-hmm.
how is Yoga Nidra going to fit into that in case anybody else is interested in how those two work together?
Well, let me just put it out there. I did do a psychedelic weekend with her and Dr. Eli the year before. So I had introduced them to Yoga Nidra because any kind of psychedelic work that you're going to do with a therapist, this is my opinion. Now, I'm not a doctor. I am a facilitator of a yoga practice, right? But what I have observed with students and clients is if you do not go into any of it with an intention of why you're doing it, it's an experience, but it's not going to impact the root cause of why you have these habits, why you have these addictions, whether it's addiction to the ego and mind or a substance. So when I used Yoga Nidra, introduced it to them the last time, I explained the importance of an intention, and then I facilitated Yoga Nidra on a daily basis. And then everyone had their journey with the psychedelics and then gave language to the experience and we were able to share. profound healing can happen from the inside out. A doctor can do surgery, right? But they only do so much. The body has to kick in and do what it was designed to do. So even though you're not having surgery, just like you're having energetic surgery, energetic shift. And that happens by having an intention and taking that with you as to what am I doing this for? So what is my purpose with this? What am I looking to free myself up? What is no longer serving me that I'm finally ready to let go because I'm so sick of carrying this invisible weighted backpack with me of all these injustices that have happened to me over my lifetime that I am ready to let go of it. So that's extremely important to understand and then to self-actualize throughout that journey. And then on the last day, I will facilitate a breath work, an integrative breath work class for them as a guided experience that is, I'm not going to compare it to Stan Grof's work because his work, he was like the founding father of breath work, so to speak. But his is a 3-hour breath work of this disruptive breath patterns. So I facilitate for probably a good hour and a half. And what people come to realize through that is they can have their own psychedelic experience via facilitated breath work, that you don't need a medication to get there. You can actually get there with a facilitator. And speaking of facilitators, I just want to add as well is that it's a very important thing to have somebody who is a certified facilitator. Somebody can go out and say, I'm going to teach you this, but they're not certified. They don't always know how to deal with the contraindications that can come up in either Yoga Nidra, because trauma can come up, or it can come up in breath work as well. So I cannot stress enough to have a certified facilitator either guide you through Yoga Nidra or guide you through breath work, and you will have those breakthroughs that you've been looking for. So I'm looking forward to the time to do this again with them, because it was just incredible to watch. And I will say, even for myself, it was a growth opportunity because everyone who was there the first time I facilitated, they're all doctors, cardiologists, therapists. And, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a cardiologist. And I practice and teach yoga therapy, but that doesn't mean I'm a therapist. So I was a little bit intimidated when I first sat down in front of them. I thought, okay, well, I just need to go with the flow. But in the end of the day, I knew more than them because this was an area that they weren't familiar with. So I get to be the expert with the experts.
Hey, well, unless there's anything, I'm kind of looking over questions that I had beforehand, and we talked about the difference. We talked about intention, the length, the certified teacher, psychedelics. Is there anything we skipped?
No, I do want to mention, because there's a lot of yoga nidras on YouTube,
Lots.
and the insight timer, and there's tons of it out there. But do your homework first, because it's important to know who the facilitator is. There's the Blue Book, which was the very first book of Yoga Nidra that I came across, and was from Satyananda, and that has guided experiences through it that a teacher could sit down and guide a student through. But just because they're a teacher does not mean that they're certified in Yoga Nidra. So it's really important to have a certified facilitator. And there are 5 schools in the world who train Yoga Nidra facilitators and teachers. 5. That's it.
Oh, I'm just thinking of two. Richard Miller's school. I don't remember what the name of it, and I know
iRest. He does iRest. Yeah.
Iris, yes. And then there's the Amrit Yoga, but I don't know of the others.
There's one that not Rod Stewart. Yeah, definitely not Rod Stewart. He was an actor. We have iRest, which is Richard Miller. We have the Amrit Yoga I Am method. There's the Himalayan Institute. There's Rod Stryker. Rod Stryker is the other one. He's the most recent one that I am aware of. And then there's one in India. So there's only 5 schools across the entire globe that train and certify Yoga Nidra teachers. So it's very important to have somebody who knows what they're doing. That's the first thing I want to say. And not all Yoga Nidras are designed the same, but it's very important to use the breath to slow the body down, to trigger the vagus nerve, to tell the brain that it's time to rest and relax. And then from there, the body awareness. So there are elements that are extremely important: breath work, intention, affirmation, as well as body scanning. But it's extremely important to have somebody who's certified. So when you go to find Yoga Nidras on YouTube, make sure you look to see who the teacher is.
Okay. Do you have a website still, or Escape Hatch to Wellness?
Yeah, Escape Hatch #2 Wellness is there, and I have some of my Yoga Nidras are there, and you will find some on YouTube who use music. I know you and I have talked about the opportunity to use entrainment to entrain the brain to slow down. So some of my Yoga Nidras have music, some do not. Traditional, there's no music in the background, but sometimes, again, with the active mind, to having an entrained brainwave to slow the student, the practitioner, to get them to that place faster, that's very helpful to get them to that lucid state.
And are those on Escape Hatch to Wellness?
Yep. Yes.
And
And then
is that .com or
.com? Yeah. And the only thing I would like to say is that because of obviously the theme of your website is I know from personal experience is that this continued practice, because I've been at this practice for 30 years now.
Me too.
Yeah.
I
And
was the one who introduced it.
yeah. And
The CD.
Yep. And 13 as a teacher and facilitator. And I do know for a fact that this is a beautiful pathway to expanded consciousness, that we can go so far beyond the perceived limitations of the physical body, and we can expand our awareness, our appreciation for so much more of our life, and we really can take our lives to a different level. So on a spiritual level and for consciousness, this is something that is a very impactful tool for people to use. It doesn't cost you anything to do it except for your time. And I will say my youngest student that I've experienced, I've taught to was 4 years old, and the oldest 84. So actually 89, sorry, 89 years old. So everything in between. So it's not defined by age, gender, religion, nothing. It's just one of those things. If you're looking to raise consciousness for yourself and your family, and you can become the pebble in the pond and make a difference in your own life, starting from you, and then the impact it has with everybody around you is palpable. It is absolutely palpable.
Well, that's why I thought interviewing you for Grokking Wholeness was a good idea, because it fits well with the theme of our raising consciousness. Yes,
Yep.
waking people up.
Yes, beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and say bye-bye.
Bye.
Uh,